Hey everybody, it's me, Colleen Pearl, the Cool Crone. It's Wednesday, it's July 23rd, and I'm here with my good friend, Kathy Biehl. And a couple of things before I have you say hello to her. One is my sister cannot be with us here tonight. She's got some family stuff that's going on. And so you'll have to put up with me handling the chat. Sorry for that. I know I'm terrible at it. And I'm so glad tonight that Kathy is here. We had chatted a few days ago about some things, and she was able to follow up on the astrology of these things. And I'm just thrilled. I can't wait to hear what she has to say. And also, just generally, I'm thrilled that she's here because I have been so cuckoo bananas busy that, you know, it would be a luxury for me to be able to dip into some astrology from time to time. So I'm really glad that she's doing it for us. So Kathy, hello. It's so good to be with you. And how are you and what's going on? And just, you know, blab a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I'm having my own Mercury retrograde things involving the state of New Jersey and taxes. But I'm taking care of some things. Yeah, as much as possible, I try to spend time in the water every day, swimming and making plans to do things with friends. I had a perfectly wonderful evening with a really dear friend who is basically family. He has keys to my house. He has my power of attorney. He made a wonderful meal. We read tarot cards. We drank too much wine. We ate a lot of cheese. And then we watched postmodern jukebox videos until almost midnight. That, you know.
As one does. As one does. When one's trying to have fun. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Great. Sounds good. Sounds good. Good. So Kathy and I decided on a couple of things that we're going to talk about tonight. And our first topic is, now I hope this doesn't turn off a lot of people because for me, it's like thrilling, but that's me with the weird 8th house stuff. So I want to talk about deaths. There have been some significant deaths, and Kathy's going to fill us in on why those are astrologically significant deaths. So take it away.
There are 3 seemingly unrelated deaths that I thought were incredibly symbolic, and I'm going to take them in reverse. And the first is Ozzy Osbourne. And why am I singling him out? Because he sang Crazy Train. The guy that led us on the crazy train has exited. I am taking this as an omen. So that's one. The second is the defense attorney for Jeffrey Epstein, who got his plea deal in Florida, died. His name was Roy Black. And that seems interesting, especially that it's happening, that he is leaving while this is all going. Now, whether he could say anything or not, you know, legally, maybe not, but I just find that symbolically very interesting. And I can talk a bit about his chart if you want. But the third one is the last remaining founder of the Heritage Foundation. So who died on the Mercury retrograde station on Friday. And that seems incredibly significant. So when we were talking, Colleen said, wonder what was going on when the other of the founders died. So I looked at the charts for the other 2 people and for the Heritage Foundation, and they have some very interesting commonalities. So how would you like me to go with this? Do you want to talk about Epstein's attorney at all, or do you want me just to talk about the Heritage Foundation?
Is there anything you want to note about Ozzy?
Let me find his chart.
Okay.
The thing that got me was that he sang that song and that he also revoked permission. The Trump campaign used it without permission, and he let them have it. So,
that's enough.
Okay. I'm looking for his chart. I put it up in the Astro Insight Lounge. But the symbolism of it was the main thing that that I got. He the Mercury retrograde, the Mercury station was on his Pluto, which makes some sense. No, there's a lot of other stuff to talk about. Let's just say the main reason I bring him up is the symbolism of him being the person who sang Crazy Train. So
Crazy Train.
the
Yes.
conductor of the Crazy Train has moved on.
He left the station. Literally.
Taking that as a good sign. When I look at Roy Black's chart, he was Epstein's attorney. Or I look at the chart for his death. I did not look at the chart for his birth, just his exit. He died with Mars right on the South Node in Virgo. Now, what this means is South Node is what we're releasing. It's what we're moving away from. And there's an attack and all this stuff. And that Mars and the South Node are on a spot in the U.S. chart, the U.S. Neptune in the 9th house, Neptune in Virgo in the 9th house. It's at 22 Virgo. And that has to do with courts and with the laws, and with Neptune can be sacrifice. It can be lies. It can be deceit. It's the victims. And so there's something attacking this, and he leaves while we're in this process of addressing and dealing with that. Also, he had his Uranus return. So I'm sorry, he did not have his Uranus return. Uranus was in his 8th house, which can be death. It can be secrets. When it moved into, oh, that's interesting. When it moved into Gemini on the 7th of July, and it's in an unbroken flow with Pluto in Pluto, the Lord of Death, and it's also in an opportunity aspect with the Sun. So he plays a role in all this, and there may be more talked about this since Mercury had just stationed retrograde when he went. And I'm not saying anything about how he died, or no one has made any public statement about it. He was very old. It may very well have just been illness, natural causes. Who knows? There's no talk of gravity in Coral Gables, Florida, which is what kills a lot of people in Russia. It could just be that this is when he chose to go.
Yeah, but, he was 80. He was 80 years old. So,
but fascinating timing. Fascinating timing.
Yeah.
But all right. More importantly, what was going on? What's his name? Mr. Fellner, the final founder of the Heritage Foundation, died on Friday. There were 3. I forget Fellner's first name.
I'll look him up. You go ahead. Okay. I'll look him up.
And Paul Weyrich and Joseph Coors of Coors Beer. The 3 of them founded the Heritage Foundation in 1973. And what is fascinating is the chart of the Heritage Foundation founding and each of their death transit charts have something smack in the middle of Pisces that connects them all. And this is important because Pisces is
endings.
Well, there was an eclipse in the middle of March in this area in Virgo, and that pulled in the Pisces. And then at the beginning of September, there's another eclipse at the same spot, but in Pisces, and it's a chapter closing and brings revelations in a huge way. And there's also in all 3 charts something going on with the middle to early degrees of Leo, which is where the Mercury retrograde is happening, which will bring more information out. And with all 3 founders now being on the other side, I won't be surprised if there isn't more analysis of what they did, what their plan was, what their vision was, if all 4 of them, the organization and the 3 founders, aren't more in the news.
Yeah.
One other thing. And Pluto, boy. Yeah, some big coming of revelation stuff is coming with the Heritage Foundation. Also, its Saturn is on the U.S. Right on the U.S. seventh house cusp, which is the house of allies and open enemies. They were into, I mean, their whole point is domination, control, their ideology, controlling the thought, controlling the thinking. Yeah. So, and one thing that's particularly interesting is this eclipse. The two eclipses that I mentioned hit Uranus in I think it's Weyrich.
Yeah, Weyrich.
Weyrich's chart. And the nodes are coming across his Saturn. The south node's on his Saturn moon.
Ew.
Of his death. Okay, the Saturn moon of his death. So something, I don't know. I think there's all three of them are going to be in the news again. And there's a big shift in how we're, how we're talking about it all and what the role of it is. It doesn't look like, oh, goody.
Yeah.
Now we build domination.
And so the 15 Leo and 15 Virgo Pisces, that would cause a quincunx of some kind. So uncomfortable, awkward. I mean, this is shit nobody really wants to know about. And yet we're going to know about it. That's how I would read that, is it's just icky, awkward. And we're going to have to accept and go on with it, accept and get over it, that awkwardness to get through it, which is kind of a lesson for us, like life isn't always, a box of chocolates. Sometimes it's very, very messy and awful, but in order to move on, you got to understand it, take it in, acknowledge it. Wow. That was excellent. That was great. And you can feel, I know when I had noticed that guy's death, the Heritage Foundation guy's death, I just had noticed in my gut, I was just like, oh, there's something there for that. That is not nothing. And I guess the journalists who put it in as a headline also thought it was not nothing. So I think that's very interesting. Now, here's something I wanted to pose to you. So we're going to go on to some other just stuff for a moment. Have you noticed that legacy media is letting little drips and drabs of real news out, like the death of that guy? Like even though right around, right after the election and into the inauguration, they were just like clamped down on letting anything real come into the news, and they were really controlling things. And that is easing up a lot. And I think that is a signal of a shift, along with the civil war in MAGA, and along with the way Congress is just kind of like, we're just not going to go for that. And we're going to subpoena what's her name, and have her come in. I think that's just a real symptom of the tides turning for the dumpster, that it's just really turning on him.
Pay attention to Uranus having moved into Gemini, because it's now created a really, really interesting configuration of chaos and change. And I have so many metaphors for it, like spaghetti just being thrown on the walls, or we're in a centrifuge and boom, boom, or there are these zaps coming at us from every way imaginable. And somebody asked, the 24th feels important. Why, yes, it is. There's a Leo new moon on the 24th that incorporates every one of the outer planets in their new positions, mostly in a cooperative way. And we get the opportunity to incorporate in our self-expression and sense of self what we're doing with the new way of being. And I would suggest to everybody that there is a huge amount of personal liberation potential in this. So go have fun.
Yeah.
Reclaim yourself. Use the Mercury retrograde to reclaim bits of yourself that you stuffed in other places, and use the Leo new moon to let your pyro tendencies come out like crazy and reconsecrate yourself. Have fun. Your
Yeah.
spark getting reignited.
Have fun and dig into your childlike wonder and tendencies, indulge yourself, because there's more information coming out during this, because we still have a few let's see. So we're only 5 days into this Mercury retrograde, so we've got more than 2 weeks left of it. And there's going to be so much information coming out. You're going to change your mind 5,000 times about what you think about these stupid Epstein files, because there's going to be just so much stuff going on. And all of that reflects back to Dumpy. And how does this moon hit him? How does it hit his chart?
Oh, it oddly, his stuff tends to be in the middle and the end of degrees. And this is all at the very beginning of signs. But what's important for Dumpy is something that's sticking around for a while. Yeah, everyone hears us talking all the time about how he has the sun opposite his moon, conjunct his nodes. So he's a full moon baby. He was actually an eclipse baby. The current nodes are smack in the middle. They're squaring his sun and moon. So that's a grand cross. Mars is currently in his house of identity, his first house, sitting on the south node, the way of the past, things that need to be released, things that need to be healed. And he's caught in this. I have a number of analogies for this. This is the live butterfly pinned to the specimen table. It just wants to get away and it can't. It's stuck. Also, since this grand cross is mutable, sometimes he'll go this way, sometimes he'll go that way, but he can never get out of the situation. Mm-hmm. And this can be seen, some people see a grand cross as a massive turning point, a decision point, a crossroads, but he's not the one steering the shots. He's in the throes of something karmic, if you like, that determines the course of everybody's future.
Yeah. He is he is really the turtle on his back at the moment. He can't really get up and do anything. He's really stuck. I mean, and I think physically he feels like that. I think physically you see him. He's not feeling the best physically. He's got that little Venus condition going on that is making it difficult for him to move, probably just makes him feel shitty every day. He just doesn't feel good. And not that he's been used to feeling good, but this all adds to his very low mood that he's been in, and you don't see him walking very much. I do notice that they've made a point to show him standing a bit more, but he's not moving. He's standing in one spot. And, I just think this is not so great for him. He's almost 80. He's not doing the best. So I don't think this eclipse or this retrograde is going to be good for him. I don't think the new moon's going to be great for him. And I certainly don't think the eclipses are going to be great for him.
Oh, the eclipses are going to be horrible for him. But before we get to that, this Mercury retrograde is going to go across his 12th house, Pluto. Now, the 12th house is the house of secrets. It's also self-undoing, self-sabotage. It's one of the houses of criminality. It's also a house of hospitalization and institutions. Mm-hmm. And Mercury going over that planet in that hidden spot is going to dredge up stuff about crimes. We may learn about hospitalizations. We may learn about health things that he's had that have been kept from us. Mm-hmm. Entirely possible.
And possibly he could have a hospitalization or a health event that pertains to something that he has been ignoring for a long time.
Yep.
So all those things are possible. And with that guy, because of his Uranus so close to his sun, it is hard to predict how these things are going to relate. I don't know about you, but it's damn near impossible to really say what's going to happen with Uranus. That's the nature of the planet. You just don't know. It's just, nobody knows. Wow, that's great. I could talk about that all night, but let me just take a peek at these things here. Do you want to talk about the more about the new moon or some about the eclipse while I look at the comments?
What I'll say is that we're already starting to feel the build up to the September eclipses. There's a lunar eclipse on the 7th, and the new moon after that is a solar eclipse. Lunar eclipses bring revelations, close out chapters, close cycles. People tend to leave, and they're like a full moon times 100. And we feel them in advance, and they play out over a period of months. And then the new moon 2 weeks later, 2/3 of the way through September, is at the very end of Virgo, and it is giving us a launch point for all that. You remember how weird everything was at the end of March? We had a massive pileup of energies in the sign of Pisces at that point. We were just drowning in it. And then we get the reboot. A solar eclipse also throws things out, but it can be like, I see it as installing a new operating system. So when something gets eclipsed, it's like your system goes down, everything's black, you can't see what's happening, and when it comes back on, things are changed. There are new programs. There are things in different places that you did not put there. And this is like one of those overnight updates that you didn't know was coming. You weren't given notice of it. We're not setting the update in motion. And it's not a one-day event. It sets things going. So both of these eclipses they're immutable signs, and all these people with Gemini stuff, they're going to get called to task in some way for it all.
Yeah.
And I know we're always saying, oh, they're going to see accountability. Accountability may not, in fact, will not take the form that so many of us would like. All right. We're not going to see ankle bracelets. We're not going to see bracelets on the wrist. Well, we're not going to see an orange jumpsuit, but there will be something in its own way. And we're not the one who then has to answer for this stuff when we get on the other side. But he is.
Yeah. We may see something like, him being handcuffed to a gurney or something, being wheeled out, maybe. But,
Maybe.
Chances are that's not going to be on camera. They're just going to keep some of that stuff hidden, and we're not going to see stuff, because I feel so strongly, and I always have, that once he is captured, isolated, detained, contained, whatever happens to him, that he starts to either feign that he's too sick to handle it, or feign that he just doesn't know what's going on because he's too crazy, or he actually has some sort of health event where he's really almost incapacitated, can't talk, can't walk, that kind of thing, drooling, that kind of shit. So I just don't see that he's going to be the one, going off in an orange jumpsuit. He may go off in a hospital gown, but not an orange jumpsuit. I just don't see that.
It may be that he just gets absolute degradation and humiliation, which for a narcissist is horrendous.
Yeah. And don't forget that the dementia and Alzheimer's runs in his family, which I personally feel he's already exhibiting in total. But though that's very degrading for him too, because he can't perform at the level that he used to in any area of his life. So that's a degradation right there, and a humiliation and embarrassment. All right. So let's talk now about a girl that is really, well, we're kind of on a first name basis, me and Pam. I just think she's so cute. But anyway, Pam took an unusual step here when Alina Haba was, not really dismissed. I mean, it was the end of her tenure because she wasn't approved to take the real seat. And so she had her, however many days it was that she could have. And
120.
Now 120, thank you. And now that's done. So she was supposed to step aside. And who appointed the next one? Judges? Some panel
of judges. Okay, so Haba has been the U.S. attorney for New Jersey. So the federal judges in New Jersey, under statute, if this situation arises, have the prerogative to appoint the U.S. attorney for the state. So they decided they were not going to appoint Haba, and they appointed her second in command, who is a career prosecutor, but not a Trump loyalist. And before the night was over, Bondi fired her and reinstalled Haba, and issued a statement about rogue judges, which is absolutely wrong. So I wonder, how's this going to play out? Is Ms. Grace going to get her job back? Is she going to sue? Will she sue in DC? Because everybody in New Jersey would have to recuse themselves.
Well, let's see. I'll throw a few cards on that. Is Ms. Grace going to sue Bondi? You think she'd sue her personally? Whoops, I lost Kathy. So she'll come back, I'm sure. The weather's not bad here in New Jersey. It's probably not too terrible if she did lose internet. All right, so we're going to throw on, her name is Desiree Lee Grace. Will she sue Pam Bondi for making her step down? And I believe when she made her step down, she immediately just put Alina Haba back in. Maybe Kathy just said that and I missed it. Sorry. Okay. Here she is. She's back. Here you are. You're back.
Thank you, Mercury. I reached for my deck of cards and my browser shut. Explain. I can't.
It's been happening to me all day. So Ms. Grace doesn't get great cards with this. With my cards, yeah, she's gonna try to do the suit, but there's a lot blocking her, a ton of stuff blocking her from being able to really bring this suit. I mean, of course, she'll have exceptional legal counsel, but it's not going to matter because she's going to be bound in some way where she cannot really make this go forward. And in the end, it is DJT or his administration that really blocks her from even bringing a suit. It's going to be really hard for her.
So is Haba going to be the U.S. attorney for New Jersey, or will she be stopped?
Well, then that's another throw. So let me shuffle again. Okay. Just you guys imagine the Jeopardy music playing while we do this.
So I used the predictions deck on this earlier. Am I reversed? I'm reversed, right? You can't read that?
I can't tell. It's too small for me, but
okay. So I'll tell you what I pulled. I pulled 5. The ones on the surface are distraction and illusion, public life burnout, and replace or exchange. And below the surface, controlled puppet and all for money.
So who had to approve Haba for this? Congress or the judges?
Well, okay. So she was appointed 120 days. At the end of 120 days, and that was a time period during which her appointment should have been brought to the Senate Judiciary Committee for, or I think that's the one. I could be wrong about who, but somebody in Congress, someone in the Senate is supposed to approve these appointments, and that hasn't happened. So the judges could have said, okay, we'll keep you. But they didn't. They said, no, we don't want you. Now, someone is saying that Michael Popak says the 17 judges that appointed the replacement can fight this all the way to the Supreme Court. Will they fight it?
Well,
will Haba be there?
The way Grace's cards looked, no, something's going to happen that everything gets shut down, that they can't do it. But will Alina Haba be able to stay in? I think she might. That's what these cards are saying. I don't know what sign she is, but the significator was the Queen of Wands crossed by the Knight of Pentacles. She is standing firm. She's not moving. And the end card is the Lovers. I might as well just cut to the chase. And this is all going to happen fairly quickly. I got 8 of Wands right before the Lovers.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So, and she's topped by the King of Swords, which normally I would say, oh yeah, the lawsuit's going to, wipe her out. But I don't think so. I think she's going to end up being the last woman standing there.
Well, can you look at it from just one other angle?
Yeah.
Will the judges contest this? And what will happen if they do?
Yeah. Okay. Will the judges contest this? Will the judges contest Alina Haba? Yeah, they're really going to try to fight it. They're really going to try to fight it. We got the Lovers crossed by the Nine of Swords. They are beside themselves. They are just beside themselves that this has happened. So, and they get the Three of Cups. They're happy to come together and do this collaboration of bringing the suit. And what crowns them is the Six of Cups. So they know they've got precedent, they've got history, they've got the whole background on their side. Even in the future, they've got the 10 of Pentacles. So they are looking at, if we don't do this, how does that reflect on us? How does that reflect on the courts? And how does that reflect, I think, on the rule of law thing? I think they're looking at
it sets a precedent.
Yeah, it does. It sets a horrible precedent if they let it stand. They do. And then what happens, what the world sees with it, is the Four of Swords. So their lawsuit may somehow get stuck and not, that the Supreme or wherever it goes, this may be a long ways off. And in the interim, I bet Haba is serving. So the final outcome is the, what is that there? Yeah, the Seven of Wands. So they're defending, they're trying to defend, but there is, just like with Grace's cards, there are some big powers that be pushing back and delaying here. So I don't see the Hanged Man. I see the Four of Swords, which is a little bit more lethal than just hanging out and waiting for a change in perspective. This is like, yeah, you can sleep there for a while. We got other things to do. So, but a terrible precedent. Ugh, horrible. So this was Pam's little turn of doing this. But here's the thing with Pam. Now, someone said in the chat here that, let me go, I think I started, that something about Pam Bondi's brother being in the Epstein files, being involved with Epstein somehow. Where did that go? Anyway, somebody said that possibly he was in there. And another user, and I don't want to put this up because I don't want to see the writing in my YouTube video, but someone had said that possibly Pam herself was involved, and as a young girl, with Mr. Jeff. So that's what I was shuffling some cards on earlier.
Okay, and what you got?
Well, I haven't laid them out yet because I stopped and did the other thing. So I'm going back to the deck where I shuffled all that energy in.
Control F, Pam Bondi. Very nice. First card is hiding something. airborne toxins and uprising and rebellion. I would synthesize those cards as the information's already out. The airborne toxins is this really awful stuff is just spreading through the atmosphere, and people are not going to stand for it.
And I just want to point out that at this red hot moment, there's 222 people in the chat. 222. Now, here's another thing. Somebody in CNN, in one of the CNN videos that I looked at just before we came on, there was a woman coming into the White House with an older gentleman and Jeffrey Epstein on the other side of her. And this woman is probably too old now to be Pam Bondi, but she was a dead ringer for Pam Bondi. And I'm just suggesting that Pam Bondi, as a young girl, probably was exactly the look that they were going for. So how would you know when you're looking at these things? They all look the same. So, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, we're in this time of just coming out of the Neptune Pisces time. So, you know, it is not a huge stretch to think that that could be true. I'm not saying it is or isn't. I'm just saying, how could you possibly know? Because they all look like her. They all look like her. And then, of course, she's had a lot of work done too. So.
Well, can I expand on that?
Yes, please do.
Every woman in Trump's orbit looks the same now.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've all, even his daughter, his wife, they've all gotten, Kristi Noem, you name it, they've gotten plastic surgery and they have a certain profile.
Yeah.
So how interesting that is occurring at this point in his life, when girls who came into Epstein's ambit got dental work and all kinds of.
I think I have the picture. If I can.
Oh,
let me see.
Not sure it's.
No, it went past it because it just keeps going through more and more and more videos. But anyway, it's one of the ones that CNN put up, and it's a picture of people coming into the White House. It's an older white gentleman, a very young blonde girl, and really a dead ringer for Pam Bondi as she looks now. So this is not Pam Bondi. I'm not saying it's Pam Bondi. I'm just pointing out they do all look the same. And maybe Pam Bondi was one of those young girls that kind of like created the mold. You know, this is what they all wanted them to look like. And she did a good job and just kept doing work until she stayed looking like that in perpetuity. So wouldn't be surprised if she was. Would make a lot of sense then. How did her brother get into it? Either he pulled her in or she might have pulled him in. I know that these family things are very strong with Trump. Remember Betsy DeVos? How did she get in? Her bro, right? I mean, this familial thing is something that he really likes. And yet, it's his demon. I mean, he wants to be with his daughter. I mean, it's his demon. It is his demon. So, wow. So there we go with that. All right. So here's another one that we wanted to talk about. And actually, I'm going to look in the chat real quick because that topic I think we want to end with, and it's a little too soon to go with that. So let's look at, let's see, what do we got here? Let me start at the bottom and work my way back up. Pam Bondi. Yeah. The EV202 says Pam Bondi is a dead ringer for Ivana and Ivanka. Okay. Yeah. I mean, they all are, because they all get the work done. I don't know if they go to the same plastic surgeon, but they certainly take the same pictures in with them and say, I want to look like that. They all do. How many girls were conveniently disappeared? Oh, many, many, many. It's the Mar-a-Lago makeover. Okay, check Pam's brother, not Bondi, but she may be covering for someone. Does she have a sister? Maybe a sister. No, people thought it was Bondi. It was not Bondi. No, I know that, Brian, about that picture. Yeah, I know. It's the picture's too old. The picture's from when Jeffrey Epstein was, quite a young guy. There were pics posted of Bondi, Epi, and Trump. Oh, Built-in 947. You know something we don't. Email me those pictures. I'd love to see them. Okay. Not her in the picture. And Brian, who debunked it? Do we trust who debunked it? All right. Yeah, I got a long time.
There seems to be a theme in all of the chat and questions.
Yeah. Oh, Ghislaine. We could talk about Ghislaine too. Because, Mike Johnson, after he did all this shenanigans to make sure that they were going to go on vacay before anything could happen, I believe they still got the subpoena out. Do you know?
And then, they still ordered Comey to issue the subpoena. That vote came today, but that doesn't mean he's done it.
Except
Comer.
So, what'd you say, Gomer?
I said Comey.
Oh, yeah, Comer. I always say Gomer because I want to call him Gomer Pyle. But here's the thing with Comer and my personal opinion, a lot of the Republicans right now in Congress and the Senate, I think when it comes to this Epstein thing, I don't think they're afraid of Dumpy anymore. I think that's why so many of them are just like, hell no, we got to see what's in those files. Because they're saying that a lot. There's a lot of people, not Democrats, saying this. And you got to wonder, well, what happened? I mean, last week you all were afraid of being primaried. So why are you not afraid anymore? You're just like, yeah, hell's bells. Let's just get all that stuff out. And your fearless leader does not want that. So what's going on there? They've all turned. Not all, but a lot of them have turned. So,
now Mike Johnson was saying at first it needs to all go, and then he shifted to, we're going to shut this down.
Yes.
So is there some self-preservation motive in what he's doing? I've seen some speculation, prediction about something coming back that was talked about and then disappeared, and that is the fact that he has a black son.
Oh, interesting. And he would,
or maybe just a young man that he let live in his house for a long time. Mike Johnson doesn't live at home. Mike Johnson doesn't have a bank account. Mike Johnson lives in a place that's owned by a minister in DC.
I think the minister is a homosexual, no?
That I do not know.
Pretty out there homosexual, I think.
Well, okay.
Well, at least he has a roommate that is a pretty out there homosexual. And Mikey Johnson pretends like that just isn't the case.
Right.
But so what am I reading on here? Is the Republicans in Congress and the Senate, are they kind of, has the tide shifted? Are they not afraid of Trump anymore? Okay.
Yeah.
Has the tide shifted? Are they not afraid of Dumpy anymore? Well, let's see. Because I have my thoughts about it.
Well,
first card out, Wheel of Fortune. Oh yeah. Yes, I think, and then the High Priestess. Yes, I think that the tide has turned. And the Five of Cups. There, yeah. Behind them is the 10 of Cups, and then 10 of Swords, and then the 9 of Cups. So King of Swords, the Emperor, the 8 of Cups. Yes. Yes, 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 and yes, yes. So the tide has really turned, and this is all a part and a piece of this shifting that really probably did start with the eclipses, but the snowball was rolling slowly. And now that snowball's picking up speed, lots and lots of speed. And by the time we get to those eclipses, it will be a heavy ass boulder just barreling down the hill, knocking down everything in its path, which is the dumpster administration. I think
the whole administration. I noticed somebody in the chat referring to a call for Hegseth to resign, like a Pentagon-wide call. And the Pentagon watchdog, I think today, is said to have issued a report that the signal chat about the Yemen bombing plans, this was at the March lunar eclipse,
Yes.
has been included information that was in classified email. So that could well be coming back around to bite him on the butt. And the way the configuration was in March, I kept saying wrecking ball, point of no return, point of no return.
Yeah.
And as Colleen says, it's rumbling, but here it comes. Solution to the problem. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We know what one would be.
Where is that? I saw that comment.
So many people. A big ass avalanche. That's the correct word.
Here it is. Pentagon, all branches wrote a scathing letter demanding Pete Hegseth be fired immediately. Yep. There you go. And God, he should be. He really should be. But he's such a great scapegoat, you know. I think for Dumpy, it's too irresistible to just have him around as a kicking post, you know, as a small puppy that he can kick and listen to him squeal before he goes off to get drunk again. You know, it's just too delicious to have him there and to blame him for everything. So we know that the MAGA is split. There's literally a civil war in MAGA, but it's not just two sides. It's like 16 sides. They are so splintered. So when you layer on top of that two things, one, the death of the founder of Heritage, because for some of those people who are really Heritage Foundation centric, that probably was meaningful to them that he passed.
It's the end of an era.
Yeah. So that shook them and probably worried them. Oh, will things just fall apart now that he's not there? Or for some of them, they might have felt like, oh, good, now this younger generation can move Heritage Foundation in the direction that we want it to go, which I think is the more techno people thing. But then you also have the rumblings, and it's not so much rumblings. I've heard it on legacy media, and I've heard it all over journalists and opinion heads on YouTube, the coup of Vance. Okay, now if he peels off a few of those MAGAs in the Civil War, he's got some support. Not that I think he'll be successful, but for a variety of reasons. But there's all of that. You know, what's gonna happen there?
Well, what would be definitive would be if the avalanche includes information from many directions, which you and I and many, many, many people have said for a long time. It's not going to be one thing. We're seeing the big wedge that starts to get things moving has actually happened, but there'll be a piece that has to do. There will be pieces that are not involving the Epstein files and pull in the legitimacy of the entire administration. And one piece would be the role of at least one, possibly two, foreign countries that they're all beholden to. I'm going to say Russia and Israel. And don't yell at me. I've got relatives who live in Israel, okay? Close ones. And but you know, there's a factor there, and Epstein ties to that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it will also be stuff about the election.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of the election, I do think that the cases in the swing states are going to heat up rapidly somehow. I don't know if it's only SCOTUS that's on vacation. The rest of the courts, I think, are still in session. And then Congress is taking a vacation, but they're not gone the whole summer, right? The whole rest of the summer. They're just gone for a few weeks, right?
House isn't coming back till September.
Oh, they are gone for a while.
But
okay.
That's the House. Earthquake shakeup and solution to the problem.
Yeah. And the thing with the election cases in the swing states is also going to tie to Europe. France has had an investigation going about interference in their election, which ties to Romania, to Georgia, to, I believe Spain had a problem with their thing, to Germany, to Poland. So just off the top of my head, 5 European countries with this election interference. And what's the common denominator? Starlink. So that's bad. So, and then Musk has his ties to Mr. Putin as well. And the thing with that, all of that stuff, and then when you're pulling in Israel and Russia and all this other stuff, somehow, I know it's probably far-fetched and maybe it's just my wishful thinking, but I do think it also will pull in the documents case and the secrets that were leaked as a result of the documents case. Because I think this whole thing is like a big spider web and all the little strings are just getting pulled tighter and tighter and tighter together, because that's how I think it's going to happen. So that's how I think the European and the other like European Council, NATO, the ICC, I think that's how they all get pulled in too. Yeah. Makes sense, right?
Makes sense. Makes
Yeah.
sense. And the documents case would be classified information that was sold.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think all of that stuff is kind of coming. Sorry, we didn't really do any cards on that except for your prediction cards. But
Don't have to. But I'm going to add into this on the Mercury retrograde station. Let's take this as another coincidence. I very suddenly, yes, Rose Blue, that's treason. I very suddenly ended up Friday night at a place called the 76 House in Tappan, New York.
I know that place.
You do, yes. It's connected to Benedict Arnold and to a member of Washington's group who actually got tried and hanged for treason.
You can't make it up. You can't
on
make
the
it up.
Mercury retrograde station, I very suddenly ended there because a friend of mine who's a Leo was playing in a band, a drummer. So 2 other friends of mine went there. And I was listening to the history on the way up and looking at it. And so that's where I was. I was physically in the energy of a place that had served as a prison for someone who was a traitor in the Revolutionary War.
And just
no, it's not in Piedmont. It's in Tappan or Tappan.
Tappan. And just to put a finer cap on it, Tappan is Rockland County, where that big ass case is going on. My in-laws used to live up there. That's why I know that place. Oh my God. Yes, it all comes together. See, people, this is where you get the real shit. You tune into the Cool Crone with me and Kathy Biehl, and you get the real shit here. Oh my God, that's great.
Because my life is magic realism. So all this stuff has meaning to me. All this stuff has meaning to me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's amazing. That is amazing. So now I think we're ready for our wrap-up topic. So I bet a lot of you in the chat have hold on a second. One second.
While she's yelling, I'll just throw everyone at everyone that the Mercury retrograde started on Ghislaine Maxwell's moon. So that's part of why she has been in the news so much. Yeah, and what little astrology I have done, I did do a show with Sybil Harmony where I did talk about that. I talked about Ghislaine and a couple of other people, Epstein, even though he's passed. So what we wanted to wrap up the show with, guys, is the fact that a very special person has kind of stepped back on to the social media stage in the last few days. And we want to talk about that. So, Kathy, I'll let you just burst into that topic. Oh, it caught my attention yesterday that Kamala Harris posted in honor of the 1-year anniversary of her launching her campaign. But it wasn't just a post. It was a video montage. And it had Beyonce's Freedom underneath it. And it rekindled the energy and pictures of all of the crowds. And it was longer than it needed to be. And the part of Freedom that played ended with words that caught my eye. my ear. Hang on a second. I'm a keeper running because a winner don't quit on themselves. Those were the final words in it. The next day, the videographer for her campaign joined Threads and posted a video montage. Now, yeah. Why? It wasn't just one photo of here, this is when I started my campaign, and here's how I am, encouraging you to all continue to fight. It was a spell. It was sympathetic magic that reignited the way we all felt. And I immediately remembered driving across Pennsylvania and stopping in convenience stores and leaving sticky notes in the restrooms, encouraging women to vote for their reproductive rights. I was on a tear. I was one of the people who did that all over northern New Jersey and all in Trump territory. I would just plug these things into restaurants. And she's laying groundwork for something.
Yeah.
She is laying groundwork for something.
Yeah. Yeah. She's reactivated. She's reactivated. They had her on hold for so long. They had her on pause ever since the election. They had her on, lockdown, be careful. Don't talk. You're in danger. If you speak too much, blah, blah, blah. And in a certain way, that probably felt to her like so much feminine oppression, but it wasn't. It was for her own safety, and it was for the political good, because it wouldn't have done any good to say, hey, the election was stolen and we should do this, that about it, and we should have a recount. That would not have worked, and that would have resulted in possibly a big, big, big civil war in our country. And God knows those MAGites, they're all, armed to the teeth. So that just wouldn't be a good look. What'd you get? Just talk.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, go.
All right. So I laid regular cards on this. Not a bad card in the lineup. The situation is the Ace of Pentacles, the beginning of something that is very sturdy, surrounded by the 10 of Cups, which is the happy family, the emotional connecting. And I will say that one of the defining characteristics of the Biden administration and her campaign was people who actually liked the people in their lives, people who actually loved the people in their lives, people who actually like people. And on top of that is the Lovers. The base of it is the King of Pentacles. So I don't know if that's their money or the rootedness or whatever. What's passing away is the Queen of Cups. I think she has spent a lot of time working stuff out emotionally. What's crowning it is Temperance, which is, how do I balance? It's the Alchemist. It's also the card of the Sagittarian, which is her seventh house. So it's also the U.S. ascendant.
Yeah.
What's coming up? The King of Wands coming back on fire, but that's also Walls.
It's Walls.
Who's been posting. I have one more thing to say about the timing of all this when I get done. So her attitude about things is the 8 of Pentacles. I've worked really hard. I can see everything I've got. The surrounding it is strength, hopes and fears, Ace of Cups, so like wanting a heart reopening and healing, and the outcome, and this is when I wave my hands like a maniac, is the 9 of Cups, which is emotional fulfillment. This is the wish card. Now, I want to point out that right at the time that she posted this, in the wake of the day of F-bombs, on Monday, it was massive. I encourage you to look up Hunter Biden's interview, where he said what we all think, and every other word was effing. Every other word was effing. It was epic. I was like, what? Will you marry me? Yeah. Like, oh my God, I see your appeal. So that was cathartic. And then that night, Stephen Colbert actually told Trump to go F yourself. He actually said the word. It was bleeped out on camera. And then Jon Stewart on The Daily Show sang in front of a choir of black singers, go fuck yourself, go fuck yourself. And they didn't bleep it, All right. So that was
Wow.
the day of the F-bombs, clearing the air, everybody just saying, we all know what we think. And then the next day she starts this. Walls has been posting about the Epstein files, actually, in his inimitable way. So we're not done with them. They're not done with us.
Nope, I agree. And I won't go through all my cards because they repeated almost all of your cards, just in a different order. But the one thing that I did get for her, crowning her, is the Magician. And on top of the Devil crossed by the King of Wands. So she knows that Walls is her secret weapon, and that he's, he's out there kind of like a blocker, the blocker guy in football. He's blocking her, and she's the quarterback. And it ends with the 10 of Cups. And, I got a lot of the other cards that you got too. But when I think it was on the show with Sybil, it might have been my Sunday show, I'm not sure. But I did a reading, and the card that came up as the significator was her, the Queen of Swords. And the card underneath, the basis of the matter, was the King of Wands, Tim Walz. I mean, that they are coming back. They're no longer on the shelf. I mean, they still have some time on the shelf, kind of, because we're not quite at the point where there's like a military taking over yet. That we're not quite there, but we are getting there. And all of this is, you ever seen a baseball really unravel, a well-made old baseball? You know how the stitching gets frayed, and then a piece of the leather, and then as it comes off, then there's all that stringy stuff underneath, and then there's a little core in the middle. So that's where we're at. The stuff is just coming off the ball, and when we get down to that core, it's going to be her and him. That's what I think. I think it's going to be great.
A couple of little pokery bits to throw into that.
Mm-hmm.
These eclipses in September are going to blow out a lot that got destabilized in March. And it doesn't take too much to see what got destabilized in March. That's thing one. Thing two, there is an astrological aspect in September that is consistent with taking action against the election. I'll just put that there. I mean, with the way things happened in November, I've been saying consistently that it would be possible for it to be overturned. And I wasn't the only astrologer saying this beforehand.
Yeah.
Right. So, anyway, so that's in September. And then any of you who watch other people on YouTube, there is a psychic named, or an intuitive named, Gia Prism, who had a dream about helping Kamala decorate a Christmas tree in September.
Wow. I would be for that. I can see that happening. That would be great. And, that's her coming into, like the runway into her birthday time, coming into August, September, and then she gets her birthday in October. And so she's so strong then, she comes to the top of the mountain then. So it's just such a good time, timing wise. And what else crossed my mind is that it must be, and I haven't looked at this astrologically, but it must be that several of these countries are being affected by these huge planetary shifts in their charts. Russia, Israel, the NATO chart. I mean, all Japan, China, all these big players, they must be coming into big shifts for their countries too, because this is a world thing. This is a world phenomenon. And this authoritarianism, this happens in cycles. And we're coming up to the peak of one of those cycles. And, so don't feel like, the US is a crappy country and we shouldn't be doing this. No, this is a natural cycle that has to happen. And as it happens, we get new people coming to lead us. We get new laws. Hopefully we get the Constitution rewritten or amended a bazillion times. We need this in the evolution of our country. So it isn't that we're wrong or we made mistakes. And certainly please tell those people to shut up that keep saying, why did we lose the election? Oh God, it was so much bigger than us losing the election. It was literally written in the stars for our country to come to this point and to have to verify that we wanted to remain a democratic republic. This is really, really key to our survival. And astrology points out all of those things. So, it's not bad. It's not, it's not the end of days or any of that shit. It's just that we are living through some really difficult stuff in our history, but we are living through it. We're gonna be fine. And keep shining your light and doing all of that stuff, because it's hard to be a light worker right now, but this is what you came here for. And it's easy to be all, oh, love and light and happiness, and I wish you healing, and I wish you calm, and I love you, and I'm gonna hug you, and blah, blah, blah. And then when the shit hits the fan, what do you do? What do you do? Are you a spiritual warrior? Do you say, no, I'm shining my light even harder, and I'm going to stand up to these bullies? Or do you go, oh, God, I was just saying love and light. You don't have to kill me. No, this is why you've been a light worker. We need you more than ever. Don't shrivel up. Get strong. Ground yourself. Put your feet and imagine your energy going into the earth like the roots of a tree, and stand tall, because, God damn it, we need you. Okay, I'm done.
And the new moon in Leo is excellent for that, because it is reigniting everybody's spark. You have the possibility of reigniting your fire and pulling in a current signature that we have that is for enhancing each of us being a spiritual warrior. I want you to remember the end of March, beginning of April, when Cory Booker stood on the Senate floor for 25 plus hours as soon as Neptune moved into Aries. And now we've got Saturn, the planet of mastery, also with it. And it's in an opportunity aspect to the new moon tomorrow. Your own spiritual warrior can ignite and guide you. Two other things I'd like to throw in here, though. Thing number one, this Saturn-Neptune combination is defining in the history of Russia. It was there at the Russian Revolution. It was there when Stalin died, when Putin was born, when the USSR lost an awful lot of territory, and 1 year later collapsed and became the Russian Federation. So this is a reconfiguration window for that country in a really big way. And the final thing I want to throw in here is I have had several very specific celebration activities planned. They're sequential. They don't happen all at once. And the first one involves a bottle of Prosecco and Colleen. And I put the bottle of Prosecco in my refrigerator on Sunday. It is there. It is chilling. It doesn't mean it's going to happen this week, but I am ready. She has a confetti cannon. I'm ready. I have my car in the driveway, and I will just.
Oh, she froze. Are you still there? Oh, good. You're still there. You froze just a sec. Yes, we are planning our celebrations. It's very, very necessary. It's good to look to the future and to believe that, things are going to happen the way, not exactly the way we're predicting. Nobody's 100% right, but it is not going to go down where, we have all this other MAGA shenanigans nonsense happening. That's not happening. So, all right. Well, I think we did a hell of a job for 1 hour and 8 minutes. And thank you so much for all of your astrological talk. I love that. And I just am eating it up with a spoon. And I think our audience is also eating it up with a spoon. So thank you very, very much for being here and doing all of that. And anything you want to say lastly to our beautiful creature commenters?
Oh, if you want to know more about Saturn and Neptune, I have a talk on my site, empowermentunlimited.net. There's a big orange banner. Yeah, I know it's orange. At the top, where I go through Saturn and Neptune through history, and you can see the cycles that are colliding now and the things. I go through the themes. It's not all that astrological. It's more historical and cyclical, and utterly, utterly fascinating.
Great. Thank you. And thank you to everybody who was here in the chat. Thank you for putting up with my benign negligence of you in the chat. I tried, but I'm really crappy at it. But we did get a lot. We addressed your issues. We definitely did. And Kathy, we will be in touch so we can, book this again, because I really like having you on. And in the meantime, yeah, it's fun, right? And in the meantime, everybody, shine your light, be a spiritual warrior, and we'll see you next time. Bye. See you later.